Hello, welcome to our huge transfer debate, the 3 in, 3 out. I've got Adam, Paul and Dave, and they are each going to suggest 3 footballers they'd like to see leave Manchester United during this transfer window. They will also argue for 3 players they'd like to see arrive, hence 3 in, 3 out. They will take it in turns to argue their causes, and then we'll judge and see who we think is the most sensible out of the 3 of them and whose opinions we agree with and whose, like to be Adams, are completely mental. So let's start. One at a time, just one player.
I'll tell you what's mental, Sam.
Go on.
And Dave says Roy Keane is a
Well, that's been said before. So, Adam, just one player and your reasoning, please. One player you'd like to see leave Old Trafford this summer.
I hate doing these things, by the way. I don't know why Chris emailed me and asked me. It's just...
Cheers, thanks for coming, buddy.
Yeah, it's good to have you here, Adam.
And just before this, I started hating Dave, so I don't really want to be here right now. But I'll go with Memphis Depay on loan.
Okay, and why?
Memphis Depay, extremely talented player. I'm not sure whether his fall from grace has been his fault, a mixture of his fault and just change of managers, change of country, change of leagues. I'm not sure what the whole issue is, but 2 managers haven't played him for some reason. And I think he just needs to go off and play football. Mm-hmm. You're hearing links with him to Everton, and I think that could be a good move for him. But what I don't want to see is Memphis sold completely. Now, I know when Jose loans players out, they very rarely return, but I would like to see us loan him out just in case he does find something. Because I had high hopes of Memphis, and I do want him to do well, but it just hasn't happened.
All right, so that's your first name. Dave, who is your first out?
I think it's got to be Morgan Schneiderlin. I just don't think he's got up to the level that he was playing at Southampton, and he has weaknesses in his game, and obviously Mourinho's seen that. Louis van Gaal wasn't convinced with him. There was a performance against West Ham last season where it really showed his cracks. When he got pressured deep in midfield, he couldn't handle that. He couldn't play the ball forward. There was no link between United's midfield and their attack, and that was pretty much Schneiderlin's fault. So I think, unfortunately, it's probably time to cash in with him. And United are standing strong. There's been links that they've been rejecting bids under 20 million, and that'd be quite good to get 20 million for Morgan Schneiderlin. Would be a decent bit of business for Manchester United, and they could reinvest that money. But he's just not been up to that standard. I really thought that he would do, and he would continually improve. Coming from League One, then the Championship, and then the Premier League with Southampton. In terms of what he used to do in terms of ball recoveries, interceptions, tackles, it was pretty much N'Golo Kante-esque. But he hasn't done that at Manchester United, and unfortunately, that is the reason why he's got to be shown the door.
Okay, Paul.
My answer is both of those are on my list. To spoiler warning, both of those are on my list, but neither
Massive
of them are my
spoiler,
number
by the
one.
way.
Yeah, sorry about that. But the player who's number 1 on my list is a player who has been an important part of Jose Mourinho's first team squad. But if I was plunged into the position of manager of Manchester United for a day and allowed to make decisions which then stuck. First of all, my first decision would be to leave, so I didn't destroy everything. But maybe before I did that, I might sell Marouane Fellaini to someone, because that just someone, whoever wants. I'll give him a free look. Wherever he wants to go, I want Marouane Fellaini to be happy as a human being, but I don't want him to be playing for Manchester United ever again. I find him endlessly frustrating. It's not that he doesn't have any merit as a footballer. Of course he does. But the way he's been used almost all the time in his United career is in a role that he's just not suited for. When we played him against Borough, United, everyone remembers that game against Middlesbrough as a kind of blistering, exciting game because of the end of that game. But for the first hour or whatever it was, very often the play broke down. Very often there was a lack of intricacy. If you think about a midfield 3 of Pogba, Herrera, and Fellaini, and then you think about the players ahead of him, Mkhitaryan, Ibrahimovic, Martial, one of these things is not like the other. He can't hang at the level that United are aspiring to, and there is just a massive opportunity cost every time he gets on the field, because he's played 104 times or whatever it is for United. Has he really had 15 good games in that 104 times? I don't think so.
No. That's very good.
Whoa, Marouane Fellaini's world class. No, in all seriousness, I think Marouane Fellaini's done well in parts this season. He's done well when he's been given one role to do. As a sub, when he's been sat on the bench. He's had a bit of impact. I don't think it's worth selling. I think he's a squad player, but not world class. So I was joking.
The key thing is this concept of opportunity cost. That he wasn't terrible by Marouane Fellaini standards against Middlesbrough, but having him there instead of a better player makes us a considerably worse team. And while he's around, managers are always going to look at him and go, he could probably do a job. Let's give him a game. And generally speaking, that won't be good news for United. So yeah, he'd be the first player I'd ship out the door.
Nice. Adam, player number 2.
I may as well say Fellaini because he's on my list as well. I was going to save him for last. Same reasons as Paul. Paul said it perfectly well. And I think when you see the likes of Marouane Fellaini continuously getting starts, one thing with Marouane Fellaini, and we've seen it with Ashley Young as well, what they will do is, whatever the manager tells them to do, they will do. They'll turn up to training, they'll train week in, week out, they'll work hard for the team. And maybe that has shown a flaw in Manchester United's side over the last 3 years, that we have been counting on players like Fellaini, Ashley Young, with no disrespect to them. Maybe it's because there has been a lack of effort and a lack of a proper other players doing the same things as them, showing the same commitment levels as them. And hopefully, when those guys are out of the team, it shows that Manchester United have moved further forward than we have been in the last 3 years. And I think it's just come to an end, man. I don't think it's fair anymore on himself when he plays and people are like, I don't really want him to be playing. I don't boo him because I think that's disrespectful, and I think that's totally detrimental to what we as fans are there to do. I think we're there to support the team, and that's not supporting the team. And I think it'd just be nice for him to go. Last time he come on at West Brom, the fans sang his name and all that. Might have a little good memory of us now, and he can just go and it's done, innit? It's just let him go.
Yeah. Crazy to think that he's been at United longer than Mata. And you look at the impact and there aren't many players we've bought in that window that have lasted as long. People like Di Maria and Falcao in and out, and Van Persie's left. So that they are 2 players in the post-Sir Alex Ferguson era that have survived a fair amount of time. And you think what one has achieved and the other one, the reputation they have, I think sums up what they've offered to an extent.
It's crazy because we probably did this video 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and people were probably saying he was one of their free-ins because he was very highly rated by a lot of teams. Remember, Chelsea were in for him, United. He was linked with everybody, but he just hasn't been that player that we saw before. He just seems.
It's you look at him as a player, and what he was at Everton was a sort of hybrid target man, attacking midfielder who used to bring the likes of Leon Osman into play. He used to hold up the ball, he'd lay it off. It's not about, David Moyes and Everton got into the Champions League, and it was Marouane Fellaini that was the target, and he was so difficult to play against. And I kind of think that the issue with Marouane Fellaini is that he was stuck between so many styles of football. David Moyes signing Juan Mata and Marouane Fellaini in the same season is absolutely mental. They're 2 players that play completely different styles of football. Obviously, Mata couldn't step up to what Leon Osman was doing at Everton under David Moyes with Marouane Fellaini. So it probably is like the guys are saying, maybe it's time to go for Marouane Fellaini. It just doesn't seem right at the moment.
Okay, so is he your second pick, Dave?
Marouane Fellaini. I'm going to go with Ashley Young. I think what Adam was saying before, in terms of where Ashley Young is, he turns up to training, he has a good laugh. He gets paid 125 grand a week. I think that's just like, get that straight off the wage budget. If we're thinking of, the economics of football and where Man United are, they want to ship players like that off, players that aren't playing football. You think about the 2 wide berths that United have, the attacking left midfield role and the attacking right midfield role. I'd say there's probably 5 players in there that are good for the squad. The likes of Jess Lingard, Juan Mata, Mkhitaryan, Martial, Marcus Rashford could play there. And then you've got Ashley Young, and it just doesn't fit for me. And whether he plays fullback, he's not good enough defensively. So for me, it's kind of time for him to move on and free up that wage budget and look to maybe sign a younger player, a player that's got a little bit more hunger and desire to actually play minutes. That's the problem with Ashley Young. It doesn't seem like he wants to play minutes, or he's just not good enough.
Interesting, because didn't Mourinho say not long ago he wished all the players had the mindset of Ashley Young? Happy to play anywhere, always desperate to play, wants to work very hard, and perhaps is useful to the squad because he can play in a number of positions. He's never going to be man of the match at left back, but he could do a decent job. Equally, he could be all right on the right wing. Isn't that useful to have that in the squad?
I think that's the.
Go on, sorry, Dave.
That's the issue, like Matt was saying before, that we have too many players that can play a number of positions. They're like the jack of all trades, but they're master of no position. You know, what is Ashley Young right now? Is he a fullback? Is he a winger? Nobody really knows, because he's in that period of his career, but he hasn't moved on like Ryan Giggs, who moved from the left wing, moved to central midfield, and looks so good at central midfield. Ashley Young hasn't done that. He stayed being this weird utility player that isn't like John O'Shea. John O'Shea was a brilliant utility player. Wherever John O'Shea played, the level of performance he used to get out of John O'Shea, whether being at defensive midfield, at centre-back, at left-back, at right-back, always really, really good. Ashley Young, not the same level. So, unfortunately, it's kind of time to go.
Okay. Paul, one of Schneidlin or Depay?
Yeah, I'll go with Memphis first. And unlike Adam, I think that I just think you have to sell Memphis, really, because I do think it's a shame. Lots of people have said that the worst thing to happen to Memphis was Louis van Gaal, but I think the worst thing to happen to Memphis was Anthony Martial. It was so unfortunate for Memphis that Martial was signed on the last day of that transfer window, because instantly you have another attacker who, I mean, Memphis hasn't played centre forward that often, but that left wing berth with an attacker cutting inside, Martial made it very clear very quickly that he was going to adapt quicker and more effectively to that role. And I felt very sorry for Memphis over the last year and a half. I think people kind of mock him for, you know, the lifestyle stuff, but actually what is he supposed to do? He came to this club to live a dream, and it very quickly turned sour. And I do think Van Gaal's handling of him was pretty disastrous. The fact that he didn't get an extended run in the side after the Midtjylland game, after the Arsenal game, when he'd been kind of, you know, he needed to be dropped when he was dropped the first time around, but he was rolling again. He was up and rolling, but just straight out the door. And the fact that Rashford came through, meaning that Martial got shunted out to the left, the fact that Van Gaal insisted on Rooney being undroppable, so Martial played all that time on the left rather than trying Memphis on the left with Martial up front and Rooney on the bench, which he should have done. It is all very unfortunate, and in a way, when Jose came, we thought, okay, maybe this is second chance for Memphis. Maybe he'll be a Jose-type player. But the numbers aren't right, especially once Mkhitaryan is signed and Ibrahimovic. That's more competition for places in either a spot that Memphis can play or that someone's going to take his spot because they're not playing in their natural position. So yeah, a really unfortunate series of events, and I don't think with him that if we sold him in 3 years, we're going to be going, I can't believe we sold him. He's in the Ronaldo Messi bracket of world class. I think that actually it'll be a kind of nanny situation. I think that's Memphis's level.
Okay. Adam McKola raised a very astute point, I think, maybe a year or so ago, in terms of Memphis's development, and said he's a player who looked very short of confidence. And the problem was he wasn't coming on in games where we're winning 3-0 and there's 20 minutes to go and he can relax and enjoy himself. He'd be coming on when we were trying to get a result at 1-1 or 1-0 down, 10 minutes to go, and all the pressure's on him because he's come off the bench, a lot of money. And people look at him and think, well, you've just come on, you'd score the winner. So it was always a pressured environment once he was dropped, whenever he did get the chance to play. So he's never really had an opportunity just to enjoy a game of football since probably like Bruges.
I mean, Midtjylland, where he literally made the right back cry.
Yeah.
And that right back afterwards said he had trouble sleeping that night and Memphis was the best player he'd ever seen. You know, so that's what he could do with confidence.
Yeah, incredible. Never mind. Adam, your third choice.
Paul talking about Memphis has got me really sad.
You look sad.
Oh, man.
You're a tough morning, haven't you, mate?
Why do these number sevens keep messing? You're going to have a tough morning when I get out. Why do these number sevens keep flapping, man? Give it to Mickey to the end of the season. Let's see what he can do. Right. Who have I said so far? Memphis on loan.
And Fellaini.
Morgan Schneiderlin's the last one.
Okay.
This isn't because I hate him.
Okay.
I actually quite like him. He's a good lad. He's a good footballer, but I don't think he's nasty enough for Jose Mourinho, and I don't think he's going to get enough football under Jose Mourinho. And the reason why I put Fellaini and Morgan Schneiderlin on my list, there was a reason behind this. was because Timothy Fosu-Mensah needs game time. Like what Paul said earlier, whenever Fellaini plays, there's an opportunity lost for Manchester United in terms of being able to play a player that will get us playing better, but also in terms of players in the squad not playing. Players like Timothy Fosu-Mensah, who's been crying out for minutes. Remember his performance against Spurs last season, and when he went off, we all fell to shit. Like, the guy has so much talent that we need to be playing him. And I think Fellaini, Schneiderlin, it's obvious they're not going to last at Manchester United for much longer. So why not get them out the door and free up a bit of space in the squad to allow like Timothy Fosu-Mensah to play? And then if Timothy Fosu-Mensah does play, you can show Jose what he's got, so then we can readdress if we need to buy anything else in the summer in central midfield. At the moment, I feel we've got a lot of central midfielders who they're not going to be here long, but we don't know if they're wanted or not. Like Fellaini, Schneiderlin, Schweinsteiger. We know Carrick's on his, he's probably going to sign his last 1-year contract. So we've got a lot of central midfielders, apart from Pogba and Herrera, who's going to be there much longer. So we need to sort that position out.
Okay. Dave, your last one.
I think it's got to be Memphis Depay. I think it's time for him to go. They mentioned everything that the lads have said before. It's just not worked out for him. I think there's been a problem with him tactically. He's not following instructions well enough for both Louis van Gaal and Mourinho. They're both very tactical managers and both require something in the defensive sense from their wide players. And it kind of looks like Memphis isn't that guy. He can't do a job for both of those managers. And in terms of his adaptability in an attacking sense, what he should have done is he should have adapted himself to play on the right-hand side. That's what he should have done. That was last season under Louis van Gaal, nobody could play right wing apart from Juan Mata. There was nobody there. And if he'd put the groundwork in, instead of cutting inside, hit the byline, got crossed into the box, simple as that for Memphis Depay, but he didn't do that, and it looked like he kind of sulked, and he was in and he was out of the team. Unfortunately, this season, he only played 42 minutes of Premier League football. So it's time that Mourinho's probably gone, see you later, pal. You're out the door.
Okay, if you can hear anything in the background, there's some sort of building site or something near me. There's stuff's being sawed, there's machines being used, there's men at work. Paul?
I've decided to pull a Johnny Switch'em up, and
nice.
I've been convinced by the arguments. I did have Schneiderlin as the next person on my list, but actually I think we're because Fellaini we have to ship out. We then leaves us a bit short of midfield cover. And actually, an area where we're not short at all is where Ashley Young plays. So I think he would be above Schneiderlin in my pecking order for players to ship out, because we have so many players that can play his position. I mean, even in the fullback slots where he can fill in, we're not short of cover there, especially if you think about how many minutes both Phil Jones and Chris Smalling have had at right back. Not that I'm saying that's particularly desirable, but Fosu-Mensah, that's another spot that he can play. And I feel quite a lot of affection towards Ashley Young, and I know a lot of United fans that's not the case. And I think in that little brief window, that magical spring of 2014, when Louis van Gaal, 2015, sorry, when Van Gaal was playing really good football, Young was actually instrumental in a lot of that. But there's no way he's going to unseat any of the big boys in his positions in an attacking sense. And he's not useful enough cover to justify keeping around. So I'd keep Schneiderlin as cover for the midfield and ship Ashley Young out.
Okay, good. What I will do now is give you each 30 seconds just to sum up why your chosen three are the best three options, although you've pretty much all picked the same three. So I suspect this will be fairly similar. But give it a go. Adam, you ready? Good time on my watch.
I'm not convinced in my...
Do you want to just give up? We'll just say Dave won that then? Because Dave convinced Paul to pick Ashley Young, and you're not even convinced by your own choices.
Right, let's do this.
Go.
Is it me?
Yeah.
Basically, guys, don't let Dave win. I don't mind if Paul wins, but Dave, don't listen to what he says. He thinks Roy Keane isn't world class. His all-time Man United 11. And if you put Ashley Young, Man United Premier League winner. Are you having a laugh? You know it's got to be Fellaini, Memphis on loan, and Schneiderlin. Makes sense.
Okay, that was a bit rambly, and you didn't necessarily focus on what you were supposed to do. You just attacked Dave's character. It's not very polite.
Not if Donald Trump, but he still won.
Well, build a wall around Adam. Dave, go.
Well, I think firstly, Ashley Young, we mentioned before, his wage, and in terms of where he plays in the team, there's so many players ahead of him. Then you're looking at Morgan Schneiderlin, again, not the level of Manchester United. There's players that could play that position that need more game time, need more minutes. And of course, Memphis Depay, let's finish on him, not adaptable enough for Manchester United. Didn't look like he tried enough in terms of getting into the side, and unfortunately, it's time for him to go too one-dimensional in attack, tries too much on the ball. So I'd put him in the car, ship him off to Everton.
Done. Perfect.
Put him in a car to ship him off.
Oh, you're very critical today, Adam. Very critical. Leave Dave alone.
It worked, Adam.
Paul, would you like 30 seconds?
Line.
Adam, mate, your scarf's a bit, one-sided, mate. You want to straighten that out?
Paul?
I'm not straight, me, Dave.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Go.
I think we can sadly rule out Adam due to the quality of his argument. So it's me against Dave. And what that comes down to is who would you rather have in your squad, Morgan Schneiderlin or Marouane Fellaini?
Oh.
Obviously, you take Schneiderlin over Fellaini every day of the week. So I think it's pretty simple. Young, that's the right choice. Memphis, we all agree on. So it's Fellaini versus Schneiderlin. Please, Sam, do the right thing.
Marouane Fellaini.
It took 15 seconds for Paul to win his argument. Paul takes this 1-0. Fellaini, Ashley Young, Memphis Depay. You win. Congratulations. Get lost. Right. 3 in. People might find this a bit interesting. Adam, first player you'd like to see us sign?
Patrice Evra.
Okay. I'd like that too.
Do I need to explain why? Or...
No, you can just leave it there. Dave?
Well, if we're going to look at attacking players and talent, obviously Tony Griezmann. He's probably maybe the third best player in world football right now. Obviously came third behind Messi and Ronaldo in the Ballon d'Or. What he give United is dynamism in that final third. How he could link up with Zlatan Ibrahimovic is something that I'd love to see in terms of Zlatan playing as a target man, little layoffs for Griezmann. Some of the best football that Antoine Griezmann played was actually with Mario Mandzukic. Atletico very direct, but Griezmann running deep from midfield, and that is his big strength. But also it's his finishing, 50 goals in the last 3 seasons in La Liga. He's just a fantastic talent. He would add an extra level to Manchester United, and imagine Paul Pogba, Antoine Griezmann in full flow together. That is what I can't wait for.
That sounds great, Dave, but Patrice Evra. Paul?
Oh, no.
I'll go then, lads, yeah?
No, I'm going to run into the same problem, Dave. The player that I've got first on my list, I did for Bleach Report, I did a ranking of the target. I've stuck with all players we've actually been linked with, which does somewhat limit us because the transfer rumour isn't in full churning. And by linked with, I've tried to stick with Duncan Castle's rumours, basically, because, if anyone's going to have the inside scoop, given the positive PR he gives to the team in charge of Man United at the moment. But anyway, I've gone rather than Griezmann, who I think is an absolutely incredible player, and of course I'd love to see in the United number 7 shirt. But Saul Niguez, from Atletico, who there's a rumour that we're going to go for the double swoop. And the reason that I've picked Saul over Griezmann is about squad balance, really. It's the same reason that I picked Schneiderlin to stay over Young. We don't need Griezmann as much as we're going to need another top-level midfielder to play as the third alongside Herrera and Pogba. And Niguez is not a direct replacement for Michael Carrick. He's not. My podcast co-host said he's a rally car. He's not a Rolls Royce. So a lot more kind of high energy, a lot more destructive. But also he's more positionally flexible. He's played all across the midfield for Atletico this season. He's played in defensive midfield. He's also played in attacking midfield. Just to do a Dave for a second, the stats show why he's not Michael Carrick. His pass completion is under 80% this season, and partly that's a function of playing for Atletico. So they do play direct, which does kind of knock your pass completion likelihood down. And in terms of style of play, he's averaging 2.5 tackles per appearance in La Liga this season, which is pretty combative. It's on the kind of Herrera level. So I think he'd just be an excellent addition to our midfield, and a kind of, he's 22, so a long-term third choice option there.
Lots of very good suggestions. Adam, next player in.
I've basically done what Paul did because of Castles, and because I like the idea of Griezmann and Niguez. So I will say Niguez, Whether we're actually close signing him, I doubt all of that. But there has to be some truth in us wanting Niguez and Griezmann if Castles is talking about it.
Okay. Dave, your second pick.
Just to touch on Sol Niguez before we move on, I think he's a very flexible attacker / midfielder. Obviously played centre back for Vallecano as well. So yeah, he can play anywhere. But he has played more on the right hand side, left hand side, than central midfield. So is Mourinho looking for maybe a different structure next season? Maybe a 4-4-1-1? Maybe he's going back to the days of Inter Milan, Real Madrid, because Sol could really do some good work from those wide areas. We saw that wonderful goal he scored for Atletico Madrid in the Champions League semi-final last season, where he picked the ball up, took on about 3 or 4 players and smashed the ball in the back of the net. A brilliant goal there. But that's the type of player he is. He has that potential. But would he want to leave Atletico with Koke there? Those two look like they're going to be the heart of Atletico for the coming 5-6 years. So I think a player that you could look at for United to play in central midfield is Fabinho from Monaco, who plays a sort of role of controlling the tempo over there. He's completed more passes than any other Monaco player in Liga this season. Sits next to Bakayoko, who plays more of the energetic, the pressing role. So it could work out quite nicely. Maybe a midfield of Fabinho and a Herrera, Paul Pogba could look quite good. His other strengths, obviously, from the penalty spot. He's absolutely lethal in the last 2 seasons in Liga. He scored 10 out of 10 penalties. So that might be another advantage for Manchester United. His technique is absolutely fantastic from the spot. In terms of tackles as well, brilliant at winning tackles. He's won more tackles than any United player have managed in the Premier League this season in Liga. So it could be sort of that player we've been looking out for, that aggressive central midfielder that's going to control the tempo and replace Michael Carrick.
Okay. Paul, signing number 2.
Signing number 2 for me is Greasy, because let's throw logic and sense and squad shape and build out of the window and bring in another brilliant attacker. I mean, I do not know. Our best 11 is slightly complicated to work out now. I have no idea what our best 11 is if we sign Griezmann. Do we play him on the right of a 4-3-3? Does Jose play 2 through the middle? Because, I mean, Griezmann's best football recently has come as kind of shadow striker. And so I can't imagine Mourinho's going to play 4-4-2 like Atletico do. But, none of that really matters when it comes to imagining him doing the Hotline Bling celebration with Paul Pogba. And so I'm half French. I've always supported the French national team. So just
That's what they all say, Paul.
C'est vrai, Adam, c'est vrai. Allez les Bleus. So if we bring Patrice and Griezmann, I'm just going to be so happy. We just reassemble the French national team at Old Trafford. I'll be delighted.
For those that don't speak German, if you're not sure what Paul just said, he said click subscribe. Just thought I'd make that clear. All right, Griezmann again. Adam, your third and final in.
I said Niguez last, right? So Griezmann this time, yeah.
Okay, great.
Antoine Griezmann, he's just a fantastic player. I haven't gone for players that I think we could sign in January. January is an awful month to make signings. I think you should only make signings if they're really necessary in January, and I don't think there's any, apart from maybe at fullback, and that's why I've gone with Patrice Evra. Is where we need cover. So Griezmann for me, it should be our next marquee signing. The guy's got it all, and commercially, Edward will love him as well, won't
he? He really would. Okay, Dave, your third and final choice.
It's a difficult one. Obviously, United squad it's all right at the moment, to be quite honest. I don't think there's anywhere else in there that needs massively strengthening. Griezmann would be a luxury player, and obviously Fabinho would come in as central midfielder. Maybe it's centre-back you could look for if you really want to take that to the next level in terms of, a partner for Bailly, and potentially that could be Lindelof from Benfica, a player that's really come on in the last few seasons, but a player that can bring the ball out of defence, is very commanding in those defensive situations, and when he's got a shaved head, plays and looks like Nemanja Vidic. Very, very aggressive in the tackle. Very, very aggressive when it's coming to, aerial duels. So a player that I quite like, and over the last few seasons, watched quite a bit of Benfica and have enjoyed him at the back, with Renato Sanchez, who United should have bought last season. But anyway, let's move on from that. Yeah, so Lindelof is my third signing that I'd like United to see, maybe in the summer, not January.
Okay, and Paul, your third choice?
I'm going to Johnny switch him up again. I won the first one, so I'm comfortable. I don't mind if it's a draw overall. I'm prepared to throw the win in order to say Patrice Evra, bring Pat home. Now, I mean, there is a modicum of football logic behind that. Mostly it's just about Instagram, to be honest. But there's a modicum of football logic in the sense that actually Evra's cut it excellently in Serie A at left back, not had a problem playing left back for Juventus over the last couple of years. And also his relationship with Pogba, and I don't mean in Instagram sense, his on-pitch relationship with Pogba, both for France and for Juventus, was absolutely excellent. They have a superb understanding. So as cover, then he can also do some pastoral stuff with Luke Shaw, help Luke Shaw understand what it means to be a legendary United number 3. So, like, between what he can do on the pitch and the joy he will bring off it, I'll go with Patrice Evra as the number 3 shout.
Okay, right. Adam, you ready for your 30 seconds?
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
Go.
Saul Niguez, quality replacement for Carrick. Griezmann, he's got the goals. Great lad. Pogba's mate. Imagine Pogba, Marshall, Griezmann together. Oh my God. And Patrice Evra. Do I need to say any more about Paddy Evra? Bring him on. He doesn't even need to play a minute of football. Just bring him on.
Okay. Dave?
Well, I think first up, Antoine Griezmann, it sells himself as the ultimate Zlatan replacement. I'd love to see Anthony Martial playing as a central striker with Griezmann running off him. In terms of Fabinho, I think he gives United a lot more in terms of ball playing and being what Michael Carrick, the evolution of Michael Carrick, a ball player that can win tackles over Saul Niguez, who's more of a attacker, more of a box-to-box midfielder. So I think he'd be a little bit better there. And Lindelof, just because United could do with maybe another centre-back to get in the mix and compete with the other 4.
That was bang on 30 seconds, and sorry for sneezing. Paul, for the win.
I think if I was Man United manager, I'd be saying, yeah, Dave's made some really good arguments here. I should probably listen to him. But the thing is, right, he didn't mention Patrice Evra once. And he could have done. He could have chosen to have Patrice Evra as one of his 3. But he didn't. And I feel like people should not be rewarded for not picking Patrice Evra in their life. No, but in all seriousness, I think that's the right 3. But it would mean we missed out on Paddy, which would be a great shame.
Could I just touch on the Patrice Evra thing? I think what he's done at Juventus has been absolutely fantastic. The system suits him, the 3-5-2 suits him because he can stay up the pitch. The slight issue with Patrice Evra at the end of his United career was he just wasn't as fit as he used to be, wasn't as good as getting up when he was in attacking positions. That is fine if you've got a defensive midfielder that can go over and has a bit of energy, has a bit of pace to cover that left-back zone. And that's the only issue with United this season, like right now, is that Michael Carrick is that defensive midfielder and he doesn't quite have the legs to come over and cover Patrice Evra. If we brought someone like Fabinho in, someone that's mobile, someone that can cover the fullbacks that's played left back in his career, would be absolutely perfect to bring Evra back. So what I'm saying is don't bring Evra back in January. Let's wait for the summer. Let's have a parade. Let's bring Evra back home then.
Look, we live in a world, right, where there's so much division and it's like people are arguing and like fighting for right and wrong. Why don't we come up with a compromise solution, Dave? Why don't you just move Lindelof aside, put him, he can stay at Benfica, we don't have to worry about him, our centre-backs are doing all right. Just make Evra part of your 3 and we'll call you the winner. But we'll all be happy.
All right, okay, yeah, all right, let's do it. Lindelof, see you
Yeah.
Dave wins.
Evra in.
Yes.
Congratulations, Statman Dave.
Right today.
A stunning victory. Some could argue that Adam McKola was the real winner for his first choice being Evra. But who cares what history thinks? That doesn't teach us anything, does it? As we've proved over time. Guys, thank you so much. Everybody else, let us know what you thought of all those players who you'd like to see join and leave Manchester United during this or indeed the next transfer window. Get in the comments below. Let us know your thoughts. Thank you very much. And I don't know, have a brilliant 2017.